All right. So it's fairly early in the morning. This is November 23rd, 2024. All right. So we're going to cover a couple things here. Light duty. I don't want y'all to think that I'm not posting videos because, and I quote, the regular traveler doesn't care, but the regular traveler does care. Just like he cares that his tripod's crooked. So I'm going to fix that while I'm talking. Um, It's not that I don't want to post videos. It's not that I haven't been filming videos. It's that I don't have any Wi-Fi at the new range, okay? And I'm trying to figure out what the best solution for that is. You know, I'm kind of out in the boondocks here a little bit, which is great, by the way. I have almost no neighbors. The neighbors that I do have are across the street in a way. Unfortunately, they are going to build a house directly across the road from me. But, sorry, that's the door. There's ghost activity here, too. They're going to build one across the road from me, but back down to the right. I'm sure those people are wonderful, wonderful people. I was a little disheartened because I liked looking out across the pasture that was on the other side of the road from our hacienda. Let me move this microphone so maybe you can hear me better. All right. Anyway, so I got to figure out what Wi-Fi internet provider I'm going to get and all that. And I honestly haven't gotten around to it because there's been a lot of stuff going on. I've been working a lot. I've been real tired. I meant to film this video last night, but I ate dinner and then immediately laid down. And I told Brittany, I'm like, just like get me up at like 8 or 9, and then I'll go film the video. And then I just never woke up again. Coma, gone. All right, just completely gone. So, um, I have a video prior to this one that I filmed quite a while ago that I have tried to upload repeatedly. I can't get it to upload. I'm probably going to go down to the cigar shop today for a few hours and try to get these videos downloaded so I can get some content out to y'all. I probably could still do some shorts, so I might do some shorts coming up just so that I can keep some content flowing because I don't like going just radio silent, Red October, on y'all. I don't like that. But what I want to talk about today is I wanted to film this yesterday, so forgive me. I missed it last year because I was busy. Yesterday was the anniversary of when JFK was murdered in broad daylight in front of the world. Okay. Um, I think it's hilarious that there's still, if you go on Wikipedia right now and read about the JFK assassination, it still says Lee Harvey Oswald killed him and killed him alone. And that is laughable. It is hilarious. A lot of you watching this right now were probably, based off of what my analytics say, um, a lot of you were either young children or some of you were probably 10 or 15 years old when this happened. Um, to say that the Warren Commission gave scant to no evidence uh, to convince the public that Lee Harvey Oswald uh, killed JFK alone, or if you're like my view, shot a rifle at all that day is rather scant. All right, it doesn't. It's riddled with logical errors and hypocrisy and outright lies, and the witnesses that they chose to interview um, happened to be rather convenient. People that didn't actually get a good look at much, people that didn't immediately get their testimony wrote down, were interviewed later, and their stories changed tremendously. Um, and that's nothing against them. It was a very traumatic event, and it's hard to remember details the longer away you get from it. But what I'm saying is there's ample evidence that there is a wild conspiracy going on, and that he most certainly was not killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. Um, some of you, this might offend or piss off, and quite frankly, I don't care. I deal in reality, and the reality is, I don't think it's a conspiracy theory when to me it's more of a conspiracy to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald killed JFK on November 22nd, 1963 by himself. I think that's a damn conspiracy theory. It's just a laughable joke to me because for example, there is a recorded conversation between J. Edgar Hoover and President Johnson within a week of JFK's assassination. And during that conversation, you can look this up, it's quite telling. During that conversation, Johnson says, were they aiming at the president, talking about JFK? J. Edgar Hoover says, yes, they were aiming directly at the president. Okay, they use the word they. Well, at this point, they'd already formulated that it was Lee Harvey Oswald and Lee Harvey Oswald alone. So, using just a decent understanding of the English language, the way that question is worded and then the way it is answered is implying that there's more than one shooter. Just there. And both men knew that they were on a recorded line when they said this. This was leaked out quite a bit later and actually wasn't meant to be released to the public. And if that's not enough to indicate that the powers that be at that time understood that there was some shenanigans going on, later in the conversation, Johnson is asking J. Edgar Hoover about the shots and which shot hit who. And he says, was Kennedy hit by the first shot and the second shot? And J. Edgar Hoover's no, he was hit by the first shot. The second shot hit Texas Governor Connally, and the third shot hit JFK in the head, and he says something to the effect of, that's the one that tore his head off. Okay? Johnson says, would the second shot have hit Kennedy had Connally not gotten in the way? J. Edgar Hoover says, yes, definitely. If Connally had not turned and gotten in the way, that bullet would have hit Kennedy. Well, there's a little problem with this. If any of you are aware of the seating arrangements in that open top limousine, then you would know that John Connally was in the front. And if John Connally's in the front, how the hell can he turn and get in the way of a bullet fired from the school book depository window, which is directly behind them? How is that possible? Oh, yeah, it's not. It's almost like it's bullshit. It's almost what it's like. Um, and they go back over this topic a couple times, and they use the word they about the shooters endlessly. There's dramatically more holes to be stabbed into this than just what I just said. But that should be enough for you to take it seriously. If you're one of these people, which at no point has it ever been even 50% of the American public believed that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. And if you're in my group, you believe that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't fire a gun at all that day. Um, Now, that's not to say that he wasn't aware of what was going on. I think, put it this way, I think Lee Harvey Oswald was aware of everything that was going to happen that day, except for the fact that he was the patsy. I don't think he knew that. And I think that's why he acts rather startled when he's accused of it, why he has such erratic behavior. He also gets accused of killing Officer J.D. Tippett, which there is, in fact, no evidence that he did. Uh, Original reports from the site of J.D. Tippett's murder said that they found automatic pistol cartridges on the ground. Lee Harvey Oswald was carrying a revolver. They do not share ammunition. Witnesses said they saw a overweight man, a kind of short man. Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't really short, and he also was by no means overweight. There's endless holes with that story, and what's funny is the Warren Commission tied the J.D. Tippett murder and the JFK assassination together. Like there's no possibility that they could be separate. And it was just assumed that the man that killed J.D. Tippit was also the man that killed JFK and shot John Connally. It's also worth noting that John Connally uh, constantly went against what the Warren Commission's final result was. John Connally said that he was shot by the first bullet, or that Kennedy was hit by the first bullet, he was hit by the second bullet, and the third bullet hit Kennedy in the head. That contradicts the final report of the Warren Commission, which says that Kennedy was struck by the first bullet, it went through him and into John Connally. This is the bullshit magic bullet thing. Uh, and then I believe they've arranged it now that the second bullet was a total miss, and then the third bullet hits Kennedy in the head. Sorry, it's early in the morning. It's kind of cold, so my voice is checked. Um, Connally even went farther than that towards the end of his life, and he said that he never believed a word of the Warren Commission. And when they asked him, why didn't you say anything about this? And he said, because he loved this country, and this country needed closure, and it didn't need to be in question over such a thing. So I'm saying, like, there's nobody there that believed the BS that the Warren Commission said. It's also worth noting that the man that had more influence and say over the Warren Commission, even though it's named after Chief Justice Warren, the man that actually had the most say over what was going on was a man named Allen Dulles. And Allen Dulles was the former head of the CIA that JFK fired after the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion. It's also worth noting that there was, a full-page ad running in one of the local newspapers talking about how JFK was a traitor and all kinds of things. It's a little on the nose. I do appreciate though that in the past that government officials, when they were screwing us over, would at least put in the effort to hide it. Like nowadays, all around the world, when a government official is lying to your face, they don't even really put in the effort to hide it anymore, and it's quite insulting. Like, give me an elaborate cover story. They gave an elaborate cover story for JFK's assassination. It was elaborate, and when they couldn't fill in the gap, they just made shit up. But they made it up in a way that could make it somewhat plausible to a traumatized nation. So I at least appreciate that. There's also the problem of the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald got on at the Schoolbook Depository over a month before JFK came to Dallas. It's also worth noting that nobody knew at the time that Lee Harvey Oswald got on at the Schoolbook Depository that he was going to take that specific route. And it's also worth noting that the route originally was a completely different route, and then they changed it shortly before their arrival to Dallas. It's also worth noting that when they took him through the when they took him through Dealey Plaza beside the Schoolbook Depository, they broke multiple Secret Service operating codes. They're never supposed to slow a car down to make a 90-degree turn. If they have to make a 90-degree turn, if they have to slow the car down to make that turn, then they have to protect it in other ways. Well, they didn't do any of that. They didn't do any of that at all. They didn't survey the buildings in Dealey Plaza before JFK's motorcade arrived. They didn't lock all the windows. They didn't have people stationed on the roof. They didn't even have the Secret Service standing on the rear bumper of the limousine, which is something they were supposed to do and would do at any other scenario except for when JFK is shot in the back of the head in broad daylight. So, when people say, well, it's just an accident, there was nothing about what occurred at Dealey Plaza as an accident. And then people ask, well, why do you care? That was 60 plus years ago, Red Clay Traveler. Why do you care? Because history is a prologue to the present, all right? And if you don't think with the recent assassination attempts that have just occurred this year, with assassination attempts on former presidents in the past, which there's quite a lot, you don't think this shit can happen again? And the thing is, the country is markedly different from what it used to be. It wouldn't handle an assassination nowhere near as well as it did in the 60s. Not to mention, I've got problems with JFK. I've got questions about how he won Chicago during the election. I've got things like that. It's pretty well documented that that he wasn't particularly good to women. That's not really a secret. He is a Kennedy after all, so but he did, uh, in my estimation, he cared about this country. He may not have been a good moral man. He may not have been a good husband or anything like that. But I think it's fair to say that he was a pretty good president. I think he did and a pretty decent job. Uh, he wanted to change things like segregation and stuff like that, uh, in a timely and orderly fashion, but without ripping the country asunder. And he genuinely cared about the suffering of Black Americans and poor Americans and all kinds of things. And he gave eloquent speeches. Even though I'm not big on the Yankee accent, he gave good speeches. He really, really did. And uh, I think we would have certainly fared better if JFK had been reelected. I don't see any scenario where we would have been in Vietnam, at least nowhere near to the level that Johnson got us involved in Vietnam. I think it's fair to say that the 60s would have been a quieter, calmer time had JFK not been shot in the back of the head, according to the Warren Commission, back of the head, um, in Dealey Plaza. It's also worth noting one more thing, because I get exhausted when people are like, there's no evidence there's a conspiracy. You'd have to be blind. You just have to not care about reality. Um, every single doctor at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas, reported the wound in his head to be in this area right here, in the back, right here. You can go watch a montage video of those men talking about it. The nurses saying it. From that point in time, from November 22nd, 1963, all the way up to present day, the ones that are still alive say the same thing. They say he had an injury wound in the neck. He had a massive gaping hole in the back of his head, in which case his brains were falling out. They actually never noticed that he had a bullet wound in his back as well. They didn't actually get to notice that. Um, there's doctors from Bethesda Military Hospital that note the fact that he had a small injury wound right here, about right in here, which perfectly correlated to this massive open wound that the Parkland doctors in Texas talked about. They probed that bullet wound in his back at Bethesda, and it didn't go through his body. It ended very shallow in his back. But the official report says that bullet in his back came out of his throat. Even though we know they probed it, we know that it didn't go through his whole body. Not to mention, we know that the doctors at Parkland said that this wound in his throat was an entry wound. Because entry wounds look different from exit wounds. That's not really a controversial thing. There's a fantastic documentary about all this, just about the doctors that tried to save JFK's life. It's on Paramount Plus, and if you just type in JFK, you'll see it come up. And these men are still alive, quite a few of them. This one's from last year. It's from the 60th anniversary. Um, and they say the same thing that they said in 1963, the same thing they said in the 70s, same thing they said in the 80s in the documentary The Men Who Killed Kennedy. Um, the version of events that you can read about on Wikipedia or that the government tells you is a lie. I'm willing to believe that. I believe that more than I believe, basically, my faith in Christ, number one, and number two after that is that JFK was not killed by Lee Harvey Oswald. All right, so it's just not, it's not even a questioning thing to me. There's not. I've looked at this for years and years, and uh, I've always been fascinated by it. But I've always been fascinated by weird things, and because the JFK thing is weird. There's a lot of weirdness that goes on. There's a lot of endless information. If you enjoy podcasts, there's a phenomenal podcast called um, I think it's called JFK, the Enduring Secret or Enduring Mystery. And it's just him going section by section by section, using firsthand accounts, using audio from the era, describing what happened to JFK and its cover up afterward. It's phenomenal. It's very good. Um, anyway, I am the Red Clay Traveler. It's important to remember to take everything with a healthy dose of skepticism, especially when it involves public officials being shot in broad daylight because they have no incentive to tell you the truth at all. None. All right. There's rumors that these documents, the last remaining documents in the JFK file, will be released shortly. Well, that was supposed to be the case prior to 2017. Trump didn't release them then. Joe Biden did not release them, and now Trump says he will release them again. Uh, I don't know. I hope he does, but I don't. I don't have much faith in the fact that they'll release them. I think they would rather burn those files than release them. In fact, I think any president, if Joe Biden, Trump, whoever, uh, told them to release those files, I think government agents inside the government would destroy them before they let them out, if they're not already destroyed. So I hope that we get to see those files. Because every time they release a batch of them, it just nails them to the wall. Because everybody thinks, well, nothing major came out of those files that they released last time. No, quite a bit came out of those files. Um, we were able to piece together the fact that they didn't have nowhere near as good a case against Lee Harvey Oswald as they claimed. Because you got to remember, in the '60s, if they told you something, you didn't have any easy way to disprove it, right? When Walter Cronkite got on there and told you his spiel, you didn't really have a way to fact check Walter Cronkite, right? And everybody believed Walter Cronkite despite his endless lies that he said about all kinds of shit, ranging from the Vietnam War to this topic, actually. Um, there's this notion among older folks that the news used to be more objective, and the reality is they lied to you just as much then. It's just you didn't get to find out about it in a timely fashion. Nobody trusts the news media today. Everybody knows they lie. Nobody thought that in the '60s. So if you didn't think they were lying to you, how would you be fact checking the fact that they're lying to you? We know Walter Cronkite lied about shit. We know that some other mainstream ones in the '60s and early '70s lied to us. We know a lot of things that they told us were a lie. We know Watergate wasn't exactly what they told us it was. But regardless, um, I'm just saying that this is a rather important event in American history. And the farther we get away from it, the less people talk about it, the less people will be alive that remember it. Um, my mother was 3 years old when JFK was assassinated. She has basically no memory of it other than my grandmother crying. Um, so there's not that many, like people that you get to interact with that really remember it well. I've got some friends at the scar shop that remember it, but most of them, they were, 10, 12, whatever when it happened. It's not really something that you were overly concerned with. Um, there's a lot of events that shaped our country, good or bad, that we've been lied to about. Lots of things, lots and lots of things. And it's not the Red Clay Traveler is anti government, although I largely am. It's not that the Red Clay Traveler doesn't think that we need a central government. I mean, in the smallest neutered sense humanly possible, yes, we need a central government. Um, but you're talking to a guy that's really like pro Robert E. Lee, so I'd be much happier with an extremely strong state government. But anyway, that's a different conversation for a different time, isn't it? Um, What I'm saying is if we're going to have to abide by the rules of our government, then they should at least tell us the truth and not talk to us like we're children. And they've been doing that for quite a long time. Uh, this is the same government that told you that Agent Orange was safe. It's the same government that did test experiments on people in cities back in the 20s and sterilized lots of people. This is the same government that funded things like the Tuskegee syphilis experiments, the same government that uh, set off nuclear bombs around U.S. service members and then lied about it to this present day, set them off in the ocean and had service members on ships near it. There's endless, and they're the same one that tells you that Lee Harvey Oswald used a bolt action Carcano rifle to fire 3 shots in less than 6 seconds at a moving target and get a headshot out. Yeah, yeah. Uh, that's bullshit, is what that is. I am the Regulate Traveler. I love you all deeply. I don't mean to post controversial stuff, but I really don't care. I don't think it's a controversy. If it's a controversy to you, then I suggest you look into it a little more with an open mind. It's important to keep an open mind, but not so open that your brains fall out. Okay, no pun intended. All right, you got to understand that what you want to believe and what is reality lots of times don't overlap. They really don't. I want to believe that, you know, everything's going to be peachy keen and that I'm going to have unlimited money and I'm never going to worry about paying mortgage payments or insurance or anything like that. But reality is no, it's going to be something I got to worry about for the rest of my life. All right, but I can pretend it's not. It doesn't change that it's still there. All right, I am the Regulate Traveler. I'm going to try to get some videos uploaded. I'm going to try to get the Wi-Fi stuff situated and figure out which one's the least waste of money that will actually upload the videos. This audio is set to coarse like last time. I hope it's loud enough for some of y'all. If not, I don't know what to tell you. There's not much I can do about it. I love you all deeply. I am the Regulate Traveler. And don't forget, Lee Harvey Oswald didn't do it, or at least not the way they say that he did. And by the way, here's the hacienda, in case y'all want to see that. This is it. This house was built in 1923. It's circa vintage. We got a used car lot over here, and I've also brought up Jubal. Jubal's just around the corner. So, I think it's a pretty good looking house myself. I don't think it looks bad. And also, let's show you Jubal so you know there's proof. Good judgment here. There's Jubal. I ain't got him in the shop yet because I gotta move some stuff around. I got my toolbox and welder and all this. I gotta take my brother's trailer back. There's Jubal, the CJ5, the two-wheel drive Willys, and if you notice, they're all out of the rain, folks. Isn't that something? Isn't that something fancy? But I am the Regulate Traveler. I love you all deeply. And remember, I should live in a vintage-ass old house. All I care about is shit that happened 100 years ago. I just ranted to you for quite a while about JFK. I don't know if you know it or not, but he was killed way before I was born, and quite honestly, most people my age don't give a damn about stuff like that. So it's fitting that I live in a circa vintage house. This house is coming up on 102 years old, and now it's got the Regulate Traveler and this wonderful, wonderful woman living in it now. So, and like I said, we're going to get married. We got to get everything else figured out. All right? So don't come for me. Get it? I cut this tree down over here. I got to run it through the chipper, through the old chunk and dunk. It's sitting over there behind that tree. But anyway, take a look. The stars out here at night are gorgeous, by the way. They're phenomenal. Very little light pollution. It's amazing. It really is. I am the Regulate Traveler. I love you all deeply. Hit that subscribe button, and I'm talking to you, Ricky. Don't be a bum. Get it?